by English language. Then good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all my beloved doctors and homeopathic lovers. Now we are gathering here to attend our 1626th day session conducted by International Forum for Promoting Homeopathy. This is our 1 hour session. After this session, our Malayalam webinar will be started at 9:30 to 10:30. First of all, I introduce myself. My name is Shalu Rajan. Today is our session's moderator. Before the session, we want to take 1 minute silent prayer. Please be silent, dears. Okay, then today's our guest is Professor Dr. D.BALACHANDRAN, who are the Senior Medical Officer at AIMS, Patna. He was a former professor and HOD of Department of Practice of Medicine at Arcadia University, Bhopal. He came in our platform several times and conducted lot of sessions by English and Hindi language. Yesterday, also, he came and took the class on the subject of understanding the concept of vital force and the vital principle. He shared a lot of information about this topic, vital force and vital principle. He explained that among each cultures and religions, how to believe the concept of soul. This was the first part. Today, he will take the second part of this subject. Now, we warmly invite our beloved Dr. Balachandran to take this session. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you, Dr. Rajan. Um, Good evening, one and all. Welcome again today. This will be the part 2 session of yesterday's class. That's regarding the concept of vital force and vital principle. So in yesterday's class, we have seen about the concept of vitalism. I think my screen is visible to all, right? Yeah. And my voice is audible even, I suppose. So well, in yesterday's class, what we have seen is about regarding what is vitalism, what's a soul, where does the concept of vitalism arise, and how the soul is being perceived across different civilizations such as the Egyptian and the Greek civilization, and how the soul is being perceived among different religions like Hinduism, Christianity, and the Islamic religion. And then the concept of soul or vital force in different system of medicine, including modern medicine, where they don't actually, it's a sad part is that they don't recognize that a soul is there, but instead they try to treat the patient. Okay, once the patient is dead, they say that the patient died away, the vitals are not palpable or vitals are not perceived, the ECG is flatline, the breathing is not happening, exchange of gases is not happening, pulse is not being felt, the reflexes are lost, such as the corneal reflexes, and we can now safely declare that the patient died away. Now, why he died, what was there and what is not present right now. If you are going to weigh the person's weight before and after the death, just immediately after the death, the weight does not change much, but what is being lost is the invisible soul. Okay, they have a department called psychiatry which recognizes the mind. You should understand one thing, that the mind is one of the faculties of the soul. Mind and soul are not synonymous. Okay, soul is much more deeper. It is having multiple functions. One among the function of the soul is the mind, whereby it helps us in judgment, thinking, cognition, conation. Likewise, different vital functions are there in the part of the mind. So yesterday was this, that's regarding the concept of vital force among different system of medicine. Now today we are going to see the part 2 session, whereby we are going to see only about the concept of vital force and vital principle in homeopathy. Okay, so let's go to the doctrine of vital force in homeopathy. So when you see the doctrine of vital force in homeopathy, there is a beautiful introduction given by Dr. H.A. Roberts in his philosophy, The Principles and Art and Cure of by Homeopathy. He says that the study of materia medica by Hahnemann would have caused no disturbance among the medical men of his day. It was when Hahnemann taught his fundamental principles that he drew forth antagonism and ire as against a new and revolutionary and therefore dangerous doctrine. This was said by Dr. H.A. Roberts. So what he says is, when Hahnemann has found out a system called as homeopathy, if he is only going to introduce materia medica as a new concept according to homeopathic law, whereby a drug is having a diversified function apart from the physiological function, which so forth henceforth people have so far believed, then it would have not caused much chaos among the allopathic fraternity. But when he introduced the other concepts, such as the chronic diseases, the miasms, the vital force, the concept of potentization, it drew forth antagonism among his brethren, and people have tried to drive him away wherever he is practicing homeopathy. So this was a great, what to say, strike by Dr. Hahnemann during his time, which was the concepts were revolutionary, which was no forth, which were not known by people till then in the system of medicine. Right now, the question arises now, why should we understand the doctrine of vital force in homeopathy? Now, for which the answer is again given by Dr. H. A. Roberts in the chapter 3rd, which is vital force. Okay, he says there is much misapprehension about homeopathy among the physicians as well as among the laity. Among the physicians, there is a feeling that if we know the materia medica, that is all that is required. The materia medica is indeed important, and its thorough comprehension and study is all needed at all times. But unless the homeopathic physician has the concept of the philosophy, of the reasons underlying the administration of the remedy, he will never make a careful homeopathic physician. So what he says is knowing materia medica and practicing only upon the drug knowledge is not sufficient. Apart from materia medica, you should have a deep understanding regarding the philosophy of homeopathy. Philosophy of homeopathy includes the doctrine of vital force, the law of similia, the law of simplex, law of minimum dose, how to take the totality of symptoms, how to match with the simillimum of the drug, how to repertorize, how to prescribe, in what doses, potency selection, repetition, second prescription. Okay, all these things, the remedy reaction, everything is essential for successful practice. Now, knowing only the materia medica is not sufficient for successful practice. You should have a deeper understanding of the philosophy as well. This is what Dr. H. A. Roberts says. And among the homeopathic philosophy comes the doctrine of vital force. So without understanding the doctrine of vital force, it's difficult for you to successfully practice homeopathy. This was said by Dr. H. A. Roberts in the chapter 3rd of Vital Force in the Principles and Art of Cure of Homeopathy, which is a philosophy book written by Dr. H. A. Roberts. Okay, so this is the reason why we should understand the doctrine of vital force. Okay, now this we have yesterday seen what is vitalism. Vitalism is a school of philosophy which believes that living organisms are fundamentally different from non-living entities because they contain some non-physical element which cannot be seen, which cannot be measured, okay, but which can be perceived by us, which is referred to as a vital spark or elan vital, which some equate with the soul. So this we have seen yesterday. And what is a soul? This also we have seen. Soul is a spiritual part of a person that is believed to continue to exist even after the death. This I have given ample explanation yesterday itself, so we'll skip this part. And where does the word soul arise from? I told yesterday itself, it comes from the Old English word savol or savel, which is again cognate with the High German word siula or sila, which means coming from or belonging to the sea. Because the Germanic belief is that the soul emerges from the sacred lakes and it again returns to the sacred lake after the death. Right? Now, coming to the concept, the vital force and vital principle. Dr. Samuel Hahnemann introduced a new and revolutionary concept of vital force in his 5th edition of Organon of Medicine. You already know that Organon has run through 6 editions so far. Okay, the 5th edition till 5th edition, it was published during the Hahnemann's life, and the 6th edition, which is called as the posthumous edition, is published after Hahnemann's death. That is in the year 1921. Although it has been completed in the year 1842, but it is not being released during his lifetime. But instead, by the efforts of Dr. Borick and other homeopathic physicians of his time, it was released posthumously in 1921. So the last and final version of Organon which we have with us is the 6th edition of Organon. Okay, and among the 6 editions, Hahnemann has introduced the new and revolutionary concept of vital force only in the 5th edition, just before his death. That's in the year 1833. Okay, in his 6th edition of Organon, which was completed in 1842 but published posthumously in 1921, he made a very few changes in his concept, whereby he partially replaced the term vital force by vital principle. I say partially replaced. Why? Because in 6th edition, you can still find the word vital force in some of the aphorisms. If he has completely replaced vital force by vital principle, then the word vital force should not exist in any aphorisms or in the footnotes. But you can see very ironically that there are certain aphorisms and footnotes which contain vital force as well as vital principle. And in some aphorisms, the word vital force has been completely replaced by vital principle. So we find both existing in the 6th edition. So that's why I use the word partially replacement. Partially replaced means he has not completely replaced it. He has partially, in some of the paragraphs or some of the aphorisms and the footnotes, he has replaced vital force with vital principle. And in some aphorisms, he has retained the vital force as such, which was given in the 5th edition as such. So Hahnemann, being a vitalist, decided to retain the prefix vital, but change the suffix from force to principle, and that too partially. So when you see the two words, vital force and vital principle, we have the suffix as well as the prefix. If you see the prefix, which is given in red here, the vital is remaining the same in both the words, in both the terms. But if you see the suffix, the word force changes to principle. Okay, the force is given as a green painted icon, whereas the principle is changed to a blue colored icon, so that you can able to understand what are the places whereby he replaced the word vital force to vital principle. So he retained the word vital as in the prefix, because I told you Hahnemann, being a vitalist, is a strong propounder or the strong follower of vitalism. That is why his heart has what to say, he has it has revolted against taking the word vital from the change. That is why he tried to retain the word vital in the prefix, but in some of the aphorisms he changed the force to principle. Now why he has changed, we'll answer later on. We'll get into the other important aspects of vital force and vital principle. Now we have to understand what is vital force and vital principle. So if we look at the terms vital force and vital principle, the prefix vital, as I told you already, is common, and the word vital is an adjective. Okay, and the suffix force and principle are taken as nouns. Okay, so vital is an adjective, and force and principle in both the terms, that's the suffixes, are nouns. So what's a noun? Noun is a content word that can be used to refer to a person, place, thing, quality, or action, a part of the speech that serves as an object or a subject. So the object or subject of our conversation, that is called as a noun. It's an action word, and it can be a place, a person, or a thing, or a quality, or any kind of action. Okay. And if you see adjective, the word adjective is a word which describe, modify, or add quality or attribute to a noun. So adjective adds modification, or it adds a quality or attribute to a term. For example, I'll give an example. Take a noun of apple. Okay, apple is a fruit. Okay, so it is a object of our conversation. And what is an adjective? You say a red apple. You are adding qualities to the apple, no? The apple is appearing more reddish. A sweet apple, the apple is tasting sweet. Okay, a big apple, the apple size is big. So all these big, sweet, red are adjectives which adds quality to the noun. I hope with this example you can understand what's an adjective and a noun. Why I'm explaining all these basic English terms is because you have to understand exactly in what content or in what context Hahnemann wants to convey the meanings of the word vital force and principle to us, for which we have to understand the basic English literature, the grammar, and everything. So here in the word vital force and vital principle, the word vital, which is a prefix, is an adjective. Okay, and the word force and principle, which is the suffixes, are nouns. So you now understands what is a noun and what's an adjective. Now let us understand a little bit further. When you take the prefix vital in both, which being an adjective, the word vital has an origin from the Latin word vitalis, which means life. And if you see the meaning, it means performing an essential function in the living body. It has other meanings as well, like manifesting or characteristic of life. It's full of spirit. It is urgently needed or absolutely necessary. So all these meanings the word vital has as an adjective. And if you see the suffixes force and principle, which are nouns, the word force has the origin from the Latin word fortis, which means strong. And the meaning of a force is any interaction that when unopposed will change the motion of an object. So when there is going to be a force acting, then the force will cause the change in the motion of the object. Okay, when the object is at rest, then when a force is acting on the object, then the object tends to move. It tends to displace from point A to point B. Then when an object is displacing from point A to point B, you can understand that the force is acting upon the object, causing it to displace. So that is what the word force means. Okay, and it means strong, right? a force can cause an object with mass to change its velocity. So when you apply a force, the velocity, okay, of the object is going to increase. Okay, it's a vector quantity. Fine. Now coming to the word principle, which is a noun again. The principle originates from the Latin word princeps, which means first, chief, and principia, which means foundation. So that's what the word principle means. And if you see the meaning or definition of this principle, it's a rule or law concerning the natural phenomena or the foundation of a complex system. That's what principle means. A basic generalization that is accepted as true and that can be used as a basic reasoning or conduct. A principle is a rule or mechanism by which specific scientific phenomena work. So when you try to explain how things work, then it takes the name of a principle. Okay, it's a basic truth or law or assumption. A rule or standard, especially of a good behavior, is called as a principle. Okay, so principle has these meanings. It's a rule or law generally, a basic generalization. Okay, a mechanism by which a specific scientific phenomena work. When you try to explain it, becomes a principle. A basic truth or a law of assumption. Okay, right. So this is what principle means. So you understood the three words: vital being an adjective, the meaning; the force being a noun, its meaning; a principle being a noun, its meaning. And let's proceed further. What is yet to be learned? Now we'll come to what is force. Okay, when you try to understand the force by physics, then a force is a push or pull upon an object resulting from the object's interaction with another object. So when two objects are there, A and B, when both the objects are going to interact with each other, there will be a force developed in between them. Okay, so whenever there is an interaction between two objects, there's a force acting upon each of the objects. Okay, whenever the interaction ceases, when two objects does not interact with each other, then there will be no force acting. Okay, the two objects no longer experience the force. That means forces only exist as a result of interaction. Only when there is going to be interaction between two objects, then only the force results. If there is no interaction between two objects, the force does not result. So this is what force means, right? Now from the physics point of perspective, a force is a vector quantity. Vector means what? It has magnitude and direction. When any thing or when any concept of physics has both magnitude and direction, then it's called as a vector quantity. And scalar quantity means the one which has only magnitude or only direction. It does not have both. That's a scalar quantity. Now here force is a vector quantity because it's having both magnitude and direction. Magnitude means the intensity with which it is acting, and the direction means along which axis, x, y, z, in which axis it is acting. So this is the magnitude and direction. So direction can be a drag or pull. It can be a thrust or push, or it can be a torque or rotation. So when there is going to be the direction acting on the x-axis, then it can be a drag or pull. Drag means what? You are pulling or you are dragging to yourself. And when it is acting on the y-axis, then it can be thrust or push. So you are pushing it down, right? Or it can be a torque or rotational moment when it is going to act on the rotational axis around itself, okay, upon the axis. Then it is called as the rotational or torque moment. Okay. So for example, if we see, if we take the example, you take a rotating chair, which you have in your chambers, the doctor's chamber, you have a chair which is having wheels, which can increase in length and you can increase the length of it. You can make it taller or you can make it shorter. You can rotate upon it and you can move from here and there. Okay. This is meant for working in different planes, sitting on the chair itself. So if we take all the three directions, it can be a pull or push. No, you can able to pull the chair towards the desk or you can push the chair away from the desk. So this pull and push is happening, and torque or rotatory movement. You can able to rotate upon the axis. You can rotate upon sitting on the chair. So all the three directions are happening in this particular uh, direction in a rotating chair, which you have in your chambers or elsewhere. So when you see the forces are broadly classified into two kinds of forces. One is the contact force, which I have already described you. That means which result when two interacting objects are perceived to be physically in contact with each other. Example for a contact force is a frictional force or a tensional force. Okay. So here is a diagram which gives you the frictional force. A person trying to pull the wooden almirah or desk towards him. Okay. So this is a frictional force. There's a friction acting upon the object and the earth. And we have some other force which is called action at a distance force. So the action at a distance force result when two interacting objects are not in physical contact with each other. Previously, I said the definition: when two objects are in physical contact with each other, then there will be a force developing between them, and that causes a displacement of objects from one area to another area, or from one point to another point. But here is the exception, that there are certain forces whereby the physical interaction with each other is not necessary. The forces can able to exert when the objects are not in contact with each other, but upon their realm or upon their radius. Okay. Then these are called action at a distance force. Example is the magnetic force, whereby the physical contact is not required. The magnet can able to attract ion particles or other magnets when they are at a distance from each other even. There is no need for interaction to happen, like the frictional force or the tensional force. So these are magnetic forces. And we have the gravitational force. There is no need for contact with the particular earth or the atmosphere. Once when it reaches the earth's realm or earth's force of gravity, then it tends to pull the object towards each. So there's a gravitational force, and one more is the electrical force. There is no physical interaction, but yet the forces keeps on traveling. The electrons keeps on moving. So these are action at a distance force. So this is how the physics classified the two forces: contact force and action at a distance force. Right? Now coming to our concept of vital force. So it is clear from the classification of forces in physics that vital force, which is our topic of study, comes under which force? Whether it is a contact force or action at a distance force. It's an action at a distance force because there is no physical interaction between the objects. Vital force is immaterial, it is not seen. But wherever the vital force permeates, it is going to persecute the action, what it is supposed to do. So they are action at a distance forces. And the statements which confirm that it's an action at a distance force, the vital force, has been given by Dr. Hahnemann himself in the footnote of aphorism number 11. What is dynamic influence or dynamic power? It's a very long footnote, and why Hahnemann has given such a detailed description is because people should understand that vital force is not any such forces which is a contact force, but instead it's a dynamic force. It's an action at a distance force. And this has been given by Dr. Hahnemann in the footnote of aphorism number 11, which was very first time introduced in the 6th edition of Harmon of Medicine. You cannot find aphorism number 11 in the 5th edition or in the prior editions from 1 to 5. But in the 6th edition, you can find it in the aphorism number 11 footnote. What is dynamic influence or dynamic power? Whereby Hahnemann gives several examples confirming that vital force belongs to action at a distance force, and it is not a contact force, it is not a frictional force, it is not a tensional force. Right? Just like magnetism, just like gravitation, just like electricity, it is an action at a distance force. Right? Now, when coming to the vitalism in homeopathy, the doctrine of vital force is one among the 7 cardinal principles of the fundamental principles of homeopathy. You know the 7 cardinal principles of homeopathy, right? Law of similia, that is similia similibus curanter. Law of simplex, that is one simple single medicine should be administered at a time. Law of minimum dose, the most minimum of the quantity of the drug should be given to the patient, and it should not be in a toxic doses. Okay. Law of similia, law of simplex, law of minimum dose. Doctrine of drug dynamization means you have to potentize the drug and give to the patient. Doctrine of vital force, which we are dealing now. Theory of chronic disease. Okay. And theory of drug proving. Theory of chronic disease comes the miasms, acute miasms and the chronic miasms. Okay. And last comes the theory of drug proving. That's a human drug proving. Okay. Drug, when being introduced into homeopathy, should undergo a human drug proving to understand the pathogenicity of the symptoms of the drug, and then it goes into the materia medica. Right? So these are the 7 cardinal principles of homeopathy, among which the doctrine of vital force is one of the most important concepts. Dr. Hahnemann stresses the importance of vital force in human being in various phases of life, in health, sickness, recovery, or cure in Harmon of Medicine. So In the 9th aphorism, he has explained about vital force in health, which we will see shortly. Okay. Dr. Hahnemann introduces the vital force to the reader in the 9th aphorism in the 6th edition of Organ of Medicine, which reads, in the healthy condition of man, the spiritual vital force, in bracket is given autocracy, the dynamis that animates the material body, in bracket is given the organism, rules with unbounded sway, and retains all the parts of the organism in admirable harmonious vital operation as regards to both sensations and functions, so that our indwelling reason gifted mind can freely employ this living healthy instrument for the higher purpose of our existence. So this is what Hahnemann has beautifully said in aphorism number 9 regarding the vital force. In very short paragraph, he has almost covered extensively regarding the attributes of vital force and as well as the importance of the vital force in the human body. Right now, when you see the qualities of the vital force has certain qualities. First is it is autocratic. Autocratic means it is self-powered. You need not charge the vital force just like you charge a mobile phone or a battery, okay, or through electricity or any kind of thing. So autocratic, it is self-powered, and it has its ruling in its own way. No one is going to control the vital force. Instead, the vital force controls us. And next, it is automatic. It is self-acting. Okay, it is spiritual. It is immaterial. You cannot see. It is not a material thing. Okay, you cannot see it, and you cannot weigh it. And it's dynamic. It's a force in action. That's what is important. Vital force is not going to be remain stagnant in one part. It is executing one action, one or the other. So it is always a force in action. It is not a stagnant, passive thing. It is active and it is indeed executing the functions. And it is unintelligent and it is instinctive. It means it has inborn impulse. So all these are the qualities given by Hahnemann regarding the qualities of vital force. Now the big question comes, why Dr. Hahnemann changed the term vital force in 5th edition to vital principle in 6th edition of Organ of Medicine? Can anyone answer this question? If you know, you can kindly put in the chat box or you can unmute and answer me. I think people have been asked this question in the college, I suppose, in Organ of Medicine classes. We too have been asked this question, and we have given several stupid idiotic answers. Okay. Likewise, if anyone knows the answer to this big question, why Hahnemann changed the term vital force from in 5th edition to vital principle in 6th edition, you can unmute yourself and answer me or put in the chat box so that I can able to understand. What is your understanding regarding the change? I'll give just a minute time because we are short of time. We have to complete much more. Anyway, I'm going to answer the question.
Okay, if you have any doubts, please hand raise. We will be unmute you. Okay.
Yeah. Just 1 minute, not much because we still have to complete a lot of things. Today is our conclusion session of this webinar. If you have any, if you can answer this question, why you think Hahnemann has changed vital force to vital principle? What would be the ideology behind it? If you would have written Organon, why would you change vital force to vital principle? What would have driven you to change this particular thing? I think in the exams, even they've asked this question, no? In Organon, the question is that why Hahnemann changed vital force to vital principle? Or the question comes, what's the difference between 5th edition and 6th edition? Major changes. One is the 50 millismol potency, which was introduced for the very first time. The law of this thing, the dynamic, what is dynamic influence, that is introduced in the 6th edition. You have the posology, okay, again. And then we have the miasms, which was introduced in the 5th edition, modified in the 6th. We have the modus operandi of homeopathy cure. All these are the changes happening in the 5th and 6th edition. Now, does anyone have an answer for this question or shall I move on? I think I have a chat here. Let me see.
There is one question in the chat box.
There's no question, there is an answer. The term vital energy conveys a more active, flowing, and dynamic aspect of life, aligning with his later discoveries about the potentization process and the deeper immaterial nature of homeopathy. Okay, fine. Okay, I can accept that to some extent. But why the change? Vital force to vital principle, why the change? I will explain you. Right. Now moving forwards, let us understand why he tried to change it. Okay. Now I have tried to find a research to find the answer for this particular question. Though Dr. Hahnemann replaced the term vital force in 5th edition to vital principle in 6th edition of Organon, the change was partial and incomplete. As I already told you, it is not a complete change. Means in 5th edition of Organon, wherever the vital force is there, it is not being completely changed to vital principle in 6th edition. You can find in 6th edition that there are places whereby some areas vital force has been changed to vital principle, and in some areas both vital force and vital principle do exist concurrently in the same aphorism or in the same. For example, take the 10th aphorism in the 5th and 6th edition. When you read the 10th aphorism, you can see the first line, the material organism without the vital force, right, is capable of no sensation, no function, no self-preservation. It derives all the sensation and performs all the functions of the life solely by the means of immaterial being. In bracket, it is given the vital force, which animates the material organism in health and in disease. But if you read the same 10th aphorism in the 6th edition, you can find that in the bracket, the word vital force has been replaced by vital principle. But in the first line, the vital force, the particular word has been retained in the 10th edition even. So if Hahnemann was to change the vital force to vital principle, he should have changed the first line even. But why he tried to maintain that, right? So this is what we try to understand. So the change was partial, it was not complete. This is the first point what you should remember. Next, why he tried to change. When you try to read and reread the 10th aphorism before replacing the vital force to vital principle, as in the 5th edition, and after replacing the vital force to vital principle, as in 6th edition, the meaning of the aphorism which it gives to the reader does not change. So when you read 10th aphorism in the 5th and 6th edition, before replacing vital force with vital principle and after replacing vital force with the vital principle, do you find any change in the meaning what the aphorism gives to you? No, it is almost giving the same meaning what it has given after the change from vital force to vital principle. There is no change in the meaning what the aphorism gives to the reader. But in spite of it, why he wants to change? And likewise, like the 10th aphorism, you can even find in many such aphorisms. For example, if you read the 17th aphorism from the 5th and 6th edition, you can find there has been changed partially. So why did he change? Now, for knowing the answer, we should again try to resort to the physics again. This time, we'll try to understand why the change is happening by understanding the discovery of Newton's law of gravity, okay, which is a part of the physics. Now, how Newton have discovered the law of gravity? Sir Isaac Newton, how he discovered the law of gravity. And I suppose readers would know the differentiation between what is discovery and invention. Invention is something which is not existent, and the particular scientist or the inventor has put forward his theory for the very first time and try to invent things. Okay, when you try to explain how the nature works, it is a discovery because it was existent even before the discovery itself. Like the law of gravity. Law of gravity was not invented by Sir Isaac Newton, but instead it was discovered by Sir Isaac Newton. Means it was existent in nature, and Sir Isaac Newton has given a beautiful explanation how the things work, like a principle, like a law, right? So, but if you say that the Wright brothers have invented the aeroplane, aeroplane was not existent before. The birds were there, it was flying from one area to another with its wings, flapping its wings. It tries to hibernate, and it was the idea for the Wright brothers to design a transportation mode of transportation by taking the ideology or by taking the motivation from the bird flying from one place to another, and upon which an aeroplane has been designed. So this is an invention, it is not a discovery. So this I have to be very clear for you, that law of gravity is a discovery, it's not an invention, because the gravity used to exist even before Sir Isaac Newton has explained it in a proper way, right? So I will briefly explain you how this uh, discovery has happened. Okay, the legend has it that Sir Isaac Newton formulated the gravitational theory in 1665 or 1666 after watching an apple fall and asking why the apple fell straight down rather than sideways or even upward. So Sir Isaac Newton was sitting uh, on the uh, just beneath the apple tree, and when he was relaxing, suddenly an apple fell over his head, and the apple fell on the earth, and it was rotating and it was moving away. So this he has seen. The story of apple falling from a tree has more to it. Newton did not observe just the apple falling for proposing the law. Even in the apple fall, Newton observed that the apple was attracted to the ground when the acceleration of the apple increased, which was initially 0 when the apple hung still. So when the apple was hanging on the tree, there was no acceleration happening. But once when it was severed, when the connection, the stalk with the tree of the apple has been severed, when it fell down, then the acceleration increased and it was keeping on increasing as the apple rolled down on the earth. Okay. So he realized that it would still fall to the ground even when the apple was at the tallest point. There he suspected some force in action. He then assumed that this force would be why the moon revolves around our planets. He showed that the force that makes the apple fall and that holds us on the ground is the same as the force that keeps the moon and the planets in their orbits. So this was the base for Isaac Newton to understand the law of planetary movements, how the planets revolve around the sun or in their orbits in the solar system. So this acted as a base to understand the law of planetary motions. Okay, so you understood now. What did Newton do? He was sitting beneath an apple tree. He was relaxing. Suddenly, an apple which was hanging on the tree fell down. And as it fell, the acceleration was 0 when it was hanging still. When it fell, the acceleration increased. And after falling on the ground, it kept on rotating and it kept on moving from one place to another. So there was a force acting. Okay, it was a action at a distant force, not a contact force, right? Now, Newton's law of universal gravitation states that every particle attracts every other particle in the universe with a force that is proportional to the product of their masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between their centers. So force of gravity is directly proportional to the mass of object 1, mass of object 2, and inversely proportional to the distance from the center, square of the distance from the center. So this is the equation which was formulated by Sir Isaac Newton. Okay, now if we carefully understand this discovery, first, Newton has seen a phenomenon happening. You should understand the three things for understanding the change from vital force to vital principle. The three things. First, phenomena. Next, understand the force. And third, formulate a principle. Exact observation, correct interpretation, rational explanation, scientific construction. These are the 4 steps involved in inductive logic to base a theory to scientificity. So first, what did Newton do? Newton was sitting under the apple tree and he has noticed a phenomenon. What is the phenomenon? The apple which was hanging on the tree, okay, suddenly fell to the ground. Its acceleration increased and it kept moving from one place to another. This is a phenomena which is happening and this is observed keenly by Newton. Next, what has happened? Now he began to understand the phenomena. Why this phenomena is happening? Why is an apple falling from a tree and it is gaining an acceleration and moving away? For understanding the phenomena, he has tried to understand the forces acting because something is acting. That's why the apple is falling and that is why the apple is revolving and rotating and going away on the slope of the yard garden. Okay, so he began to understand the force acting which is causing the phenomena. And he has understood that these forces are called the gravitational force which exists between the earth and the apple. And he has later found out that this is not only with the apple, this happens with whatever objects which has a mass in it. Okay, whether it be apple, whether it be mango, whether it be pomegranate, whatever it may be, whether it be a strawberry, raspberry, whatever it may be, any fruits, any vegetables, or any object which has a mass in it, then the gravitational force tends to attract it. Okay, so this is the action or the role played by the forces. And last, third, he tried to establish it as a principle. If you are going to formulate a principle, you should understand that this should be applicable at any point of time, at any place, irrespective of whether it is anywhere on the earth. Newton might have seen this happening somewhere in England, but whether it is applicable in India, whether it is applicable in Australia, whether it is applicable in Africa, whether it is applicable in America, yes, it is elsewhere applicable, it is universal. Then it becomes a principle. It is not like that this phenomena is seen only in England, but it is not observed in other points of the world. Then it does not become a principle then. Okay, so you should try, by experiment, you should be able to prove that this exists. Then that becomes a principle. It should be universal in application, right? So he tried to establish a principle, and by establishing the principle, he discovered the law of universal gravitation. Now we understood this concept. First, he has noticed a phenomena happening, and he tried to understand the forces acting behind the phenomena so that the phenomena happens. And after understanding the phenomena and the forces played, he tried to establish a principle. And that principle is called the law of universal gravitation. This is how a principle has been formulated. Now we understood this. We'll proceed further to homeopathy. Now, I will try to answer the question, why Hahnemann changed from vital force to vital principle. This is my perspective. There might be people who agree with it. There might be people who don't agree with it. But it all depends upon the way in which you perceive. Hahnemann is not alive right now. So if he would have been there, then he would have either uh, supported or opposed my theory. But yet he's not there. So I am having a free will to explain it in whatever way I understand. Right? So why did Hahnemann change vital force to vital principle from the 5th to 6th edition, which was partial? Now, applying the same principles or applying the same theory, like how we understood the law of gravity by Sir Isaac Newton, we'll try to understand the vital force and vital principle from the Hahnemann's point of view. Okay. Now, if we try to carefully understand Dr. Hahnemann's discovery, first, Dr. Hahnemann noticed a phenomena happening. Yes, he is a doctor. He is a allopathic doctor, and he had been practicing the medicine since after his graduation in medicine. Now he has seen human beings in a perfect state of health getting sick and getting cured or recovered or die away. When a person is afflicted with a disease, he is no more healthy, he is becoming a sick individual. A sick individual, if he is being acutely affected or chronically affected by an incurable disease, or if in acute, if it is very severe, then you can see that the person die away. For example, we see people dying of epidemics like plague. We see people dying of epidemic like cholera. Okay, we see people dying of epidemic like scarlatina. Okay, likewise, we can see people dying away. Why? Because the action of the acute disease is very severe. We see people dying of malaria, right? Now, if the people are being afflicted by disease which is not very severe, like a simple viral fever or a simple fever, let us say, or a simple gastroenteritis, you can see without the aid of the medicine, the individual who is sick is getting recovered on his own. Okay. And if suppose an individual is getting sick and he is not recovering, he is waiting for some time to see whether it is getting recovering or not. And if it is not, then he can take the aid of the doctor, getting medicines and then getting cured or recovered from the diseases what they have been afflicted. So this Hahnemann has been watching. So he is seeing a phenomena, right? Just like Sir Isaac Newton seeing apple falling down. Likewise, Hahnemann is seeing human beings who are healthy now becoming diseased, and becoming diseased, either getting cured on their own or with the help of medicine, or without any aid of medicines or the disease being very stronger, die away. So he's seeing a phenomena. Now in the back of the mind, it is running. Why an individual who was healthy before is suddenly getting sick, and after getting sick, how he is getting cured on his own, or how he is getting cured by giving medicine, or why the medicine is not acting and why the person dies away. So in the back of the mind, it is running like why an individual is falling sick and how he is getting cured or die away or recover. So second, he tried to understand the forces which is acting upon the individual from the healthy state to a sick state and then dying away or recovering or getting cured. Now, by understanding the forces for a long time, for Hahnemann, he has understood now the force which is acting in the health, in the disease, as well as in the cure is the vital force. It took 5 years almost till the 5th edition. I would not say 5 years. It took a long time for Hahnemann from the first edition being published in the 1810 and the 5th edition being published in 1833 to understand the force, that the force has been given a name, the vital force. Why Hahnemann took this much time? Because as I told you, vital force is immaterial. Vital force is dynamic. You cannot see the force. If he would have seen the force, then he would have probably discovered it much earlier. But since the force is invisible, it's very difficult for people to understand. Okay. And with his inductive logic of reasoning and by his keen observation, he has now tried to reveal the unknown force which is invisible so far, for which he has given the name of vital force for the very first time in the 5th edition of 1833. So from the first edition of Organon till the 5th edition of Organon, Hahnemann is just observing very keenly what is happening to the individuals, to the human beings, why they are falling sick, why they get cured or recover, or why they die away. And in the point of understanding or explaining this thing, he has understood a force acting upon the individual when they are healthy, when they are sick, and in the healthy individual when becoming sick and when getting cured even. Now, why, according to homeopathy, an individual falls sick? Because the vital force is deranged. And why they are healthy? Because vital force is in a healthy state of existence. And when vital force is being overpowered by a dynamic force, namely the miasms, or by any kind of indisposition due to changes in the lifestyle, then an individual tends to fall sick. And if it is due to the exciting or the maintaining causes, which we call as causa occasionalis in Organon, then you can say that the individual suffers from an indisposition. And when you are trying to rectify the lifestyle modifications, we're trying to take away the maintaining and the exciting cause away, then the vis medicatrix nature or the vital force tends to bring back the organism to the previous state of health, which is called as the recovery. But if suppose the vital force has been disturbed by the dynamic miasms, the chronic miasms, let us say, either by psoriasis, syphilis, or psychosis, then the vital force now gets a chronic disease. Means it is afflicted, the body is afflicted with a chronic disease, whereby it is trying to show its disease with the help of, or sickness with the help of signs and symptoms. And after careful observation and collection of the symptoms, we frame a totality, and with the help of the similimum and the anti-miasmatic medicines, when being administered, it is going to help the vital force, and then with the help of these medicines, the vital force is going to recover gradually and overthrow the disease away, and then come back to the previous state of health, which is called as a cure. So all this happens by vital force. Our medicines are not curing. Remember, please, our medicines are helping the vital force in curing the diseases. The cure happens by secondary curative action, not by the primary action. Remember, primary action is the action by the medicine or the drug being given. Okay, then you have the secondary counteraction, whereby the body is going to oppose to the primary action of the drug. Okay, and next comes the secondary curative action. It is by the secondary curative action that the disease is getting cured completely, the vital force coming back to the previous state of health. Many people think that the medicines are curing us. No, in homeopathy, as per the tenets of homeopathy, it is a vital force which is curing itself with the aid of medicine. That's all. The medicine is not curing you. Your body's vital force is trying to rejuvenate and try to cure you. This should be your understanding of the concept, right? Fine. And third, this was regarding the forces acting behind the phenomena of getting sick. And third comes the principle. He tried to establish a principle, and that principle explained the phenomena. And that is why in the 6th edition, Hahnemann has tried to replace the word vital force with a vital principle, because this principle is universal. It is applicable in all the cases of diseased individual, whether it be in a state of health, whether it be in a state of disease, whether it be in a state of cure. That is why he is given the modus operandi of homeopathic cure. This is how the cure happens, and it is based upon a principle. And this principle is universal. It is irrefutable. It cannot be changed. It's a law. It is by the truth by which the body is trying to cure the disease with the help of the medicinal aid of the simillimum, which is selected based upon the law of similia and administered in a least possible dose as required. So this was the reason why vital force from the 5th edition is now changed in the 6th edition to vital principle, because he has established a law. Okay, he found out the force in the 5th edition, and by understanding the force, what comes next is the formulation of a principle. That is why in the 6th edition, the next edition following 1830, that is in the 1842, after almost say 9 years, he has established the vital principle. And what are the other things which he has explained in the 6th edition? He has changed vital force to vital principle, that is there. He has included, see, dynamic influence in the aphorism number 11 footnote in 1842. Again, in the 6th edition, he has introduced the LM potency, the way how which the medicine is being diminished in a logarithmic manner in a very least possible dose, and still yet it is curing the patient. And then he has explained the modus operandi of homeopathy cure. Okay, it was proposed in the 5th edition, but it was modified and refined in the 6th edition in the 1842. So all these things are happening in the 6th edition, and all these are supporting Hahnemann's contention of the principle, vital principle. Okay, nothing is refuting the vital principle here. All these works in accordance with the vital principle only. And that's what one reason why Hahnemann changed vital force to vital principle. Right? This I have given as a flowchart so that you can able to understand easily. So we have something called as the health sickness spectrum. Okay, this you might have studied in community medicine or the social and preventive medicine, whereby the health is a dynamic phenomena. It is not a constant stagnant phenomena. It is not a what to say, it is not a thing whereby it keeps on changing from one part, like a spectrum of light, whereby you have the 7 colors coming out of a prism when a ray of light is being put on a prism. Likewise, the health is a dynamic state. It is not a static state. So we have positive health, better health, freedom from sickness. Till the 3 stages, you feel that you are disease free. You don't find any symptoms. You don't find any signs that you are sick. And then comes unrecognized sickness. Means sickness is there, but you are unaware of. Then the symptoms begin to show in the body, which is called as a mild sickness. Okay. Then comes severe sickness, whereby you can very clearly see that you are not healthy, you are sick, you are having certain symptoms in the body, signs in the body, which makes you or which curtails you from doing your regular day-to-day activity. And finally, if it is not being treated or if the sickness is incurable, then it results in death. So these are the spectrum of health: positive health, better health, freedom from sickness, unrecognized sickness, mild sickness, severe sickness, and death. Okay, so it keeps on fluctuating on this manner, right? And once death happens, there is no again coming back to the previous state of health. Okay, till the severe sickness, you can bring back the individual to the previous state of health. But once it has crossed the borderline and death happens, it is irreversible. The vital force has left the body, and your medicine acts on the vital force. And if the vital force has left the body, the medicine cannot act. So that is why death cannot be reversed again. Fine. Now, when you see this 3, positive health, better health, and freedom from sickness, all these are being explained in the aphorism number 9, that is vital force in health. When we have freedom from sickness transiting to unrecognized sickness, we have the role of miasms coming in between, right? When you have unrecognized sickness, that's a latent sora. When you have mild sickness, that's a sora. When severe sickness, psychosis, and syphilis joins, you have vital force and disease, right? And in the 10th aphorism, of course, you can see the body without the vital force is capable of no sensation, no function, no self-preservation. All these have been given in the 10th aphorism. That is vital force in death. So these are the phenomena, and these are the forces acting from the health to the sickness and even after death, right? And how the sickness is going to turn to health, that has been explained in the modus operandi of homeopathy cure, that is given by Hahnemann in aphorism number 28 and 29. So with this, I think today's lecture is over, and the viewers might now understand the deep understanding of what is vital force and vital principle, and why Hahnemann might have changed, or the contention behind his change from vital force to vital principle in the 5th and 6th edition. So I will conclude with these remarks. Life is like a notebook. 2 pages are already written by God. The first page is birth, last page is death. The center pages are empty, so fill them with smiles and love. Thank you. I will stop sharing. So if you have any doubts, you can ask me.
Okay, doctor, it is very interesting session. You explained a lot of things on the subject of vital force and vital power. Especially you shared the meaning of vital principle and how it's work as the different perspectives. Okay, then hi everyone. It's the time of our question answer session. Just 5 minutes remaining. If you have any doubts, you can share now. We will be unmute you.
It's a complex topic. I do understand. And it was fortunate for me to get 2 continuous sessions yesterday and today, so that I can able to complete it in a detailed manner. And if you can
Okay,
able
like,
to,
doctor, I have a little confusion is that is how to energize our soul. because I think both physical and mental diseases happen cause of our soul problems. Is it right?
Yeah, of course, it is there. We generally say, no, when vital force is deranged by any of the things happening, either by stress or tension or anxiety, then it tends to suffer. And when the suffering so happens in the mind, then we get disease as the manifestations, as in the physical. Right? You try to follow the nature's pathway. No, when you deviate from the nature, then of course disease will so happen. You try to do meditation. You try to lead a
Yeah,
stress-free
yes.
life as far as possible. You try to eat properly. You try to exercise yourself properly. Try to fill yourself with positive-minded people. Don't engage unnecessarily with any kind of people. Don't have any jealousy. Try to have the saint's state of mind. Try to understand the purpose for which you are being born. Talking unnecessarily about any person or hearing rumors and trying to believe that they are a truth is going to cause only or disturbance in the mind. No? And of course, mind is not a dustbin to dump all the unnecessary things or waste. Try to recycle them. Try to take to the mind what is required. Try to leave the other things away so that it can be stress free. So I think these are some of the comments or the tips I can give you for leading a healthy life. Yeah.
Okay, doctor.
I
Our
have
time
a
is
question
over.
here. I think I have a question here. Dr. Sunil is asking, in physics, we are still using gravitational force, not gravitational principle. See, gravitational force is different. Gravitational principle is different. Principle is trying to explain. Force is the one which is acting. Okay. If you try to explain the phenomena, that's the principle. We have the equation for it. Force is when two objects interact, not physically, but under the influence of the force. So gravitational force is separate. Gravitational principle is separate. They are not both same. I think I'm clear, Dr. Sunil. Yeah.
Okay, Doctor Ram Parvesh, we have only 1 minute left. You can ask. Okay, I'll ask. I will unmute you. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Rajanji, and congratulations, Dr. D.BALACHANDRAN. Very nice presentation.
Thank you.
Good describe the vital force and vital principle. According to homeopathic, Dr. Hanman described the cause in invisible and vital force derived invisible, and homeopathic medicine is invisible. So very thanks, Dr. Balachandran. Effect medicine action of vital force, not the disease.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Then thank you, Dr. Balandran sir. You have conducted a great and interesting session yesterday and today also on the subject of concept the vital force. We understood that you have been able to help many people. May you be able to work even more efficiently in your field of work. We hope you come again on this platform in coming future. Now we want to wind up this session and our Malayalam webinar will be started now. I hand over this session to our respected Dr. Manoj sir, who
Dr.
is the moderator.
Balachandran, kindly.
Doctor?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Shalu Rajan.
Okay.
And
Okay. Thank you. Thank you
thank
all.
you all. Thank you.
Good night.